and also this Universitas Hayam Buruk. He was also selected for the world-class professors programs by the Ministry of Education and Culture Indonesia twice in 2020 and 2021. Okay, so he was appointed the Visiting Research Fellow for the Central Banks of Malaysia in May 2021. Even Lau also actually spoke at various international conferences in in countries like Indonesia, UAE, Sri Lanka, Italy, India, the Philippines, and as well as, of course, is Malaysia. So far, he has published about 99 papers and supervised 72 postgraduate students. It's a big amount, 72. Okay, so over here also examined 56 postgraduate theses around the world. So actually, he's also a top 9% economist in Malaysia since 2008, and in Asia, 12%. So welcomes Associate Professors Dr. Ivan Laos, and thank you very much for some sharing your knowledge about publications with our students in Sempris. So welcomes, and then floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Tang, for the overwhelmed introduction. Right, so let me just share my screen straight. I'm pretty honored to be here today for this been invited by the Center of Policy Research and International Studies, or in short, it's called Sempris, in USM, Universiti Science Malaysia, and be just sharing of what some of my experience for the past more than a decade, or actually now looking into the way, it's about 2 decades since I started my PhD back in early of this millennia, which is at the year 2001. So I think it's pretty much good kind of I hope it's going to be put some value added to all of you, especially the participant or those PhD candidates, and certainly to the rest of the participant for today webinar. So the title was the title actually that I've been doing this for today going to be a title on Publish and Flourish. So certainly publication is part of our academia world. It's part of what we are being in the world of academia, and certainly we are not we are required to publish. I use the word required to publish, even though that you are perhaps the students, the academia or whatnot related to that. So it's a part and process of how we would be able to grow in terms of publication. So I'm going to share some of my knowledge certainly on that part. All right, let me move on to my slides. See, okay, all right. So this is part of the menu that I'm going to, or the some points that I'm going to raise up in this particular my simple talk, my experience actually for today. The first part is certainly about how we can inculcate or actually embed our research, the research culture, which I'm sure it has been there on the institutional level in the university, right? Just that to reinforce it, to re-inform everyone, or perhaps to share a little bit of my experience on that part. The second part is about very much related to the topic today, on a much more specific scale, which is on publish, perish, and flourish. Normally we heard publish or perish. If you don't publish, you perish. But I would be it will be much more better wording for me, publish and flourish, which is part of the title that I'm going to that we're sharing today. That's second part. The third part is about on the perspective of journalism, because I've been as managing a journal since I joined the university. I'm with Universiti Malaysia Sarawak. This is the front door of the university coming into our campus, situated here in Sarawak here, and and certainly I've been in this journal for the past 16 years right now, and right now I pass the torch. I pass the torch to another person who's have been taking over the what I've been doing for the past 16 years, starting this year 2022. So it's just 12 days into 2022. So still you're still on the transition, very much on the transition period on towards the journal itself and so on. Right. So that's from journal perspective, right? The first few parts is on the first part is on perhaps on the much more general perspective. The second one is be more on the author's perspective. The third section will be on journal perspective, the dilemma and the challenges of the journal. Journal also have challenges, especially journals in Malaysia. I will be able to touch a little bit on that for the past of my experience. And number 4 is that finding the right mix means that my assumption of that will be that when you publish a paper, you have a paper, you target a journal, and when the paper published, this is the right mix. This is what I always believe in. As an economist, I believe in equilibrium. So when you have the demand and then you have the supply, and then it achieves equilibrium, that's where you publish the paper. Citation come later. Right? Citation is something extra on top of above of what we publish. Right? Some published paper might not be cited. Perhaps some not so famous journal is cited more than the famous journal, right? That's a little bit of a different argument there. So finding the right mix means that to ensure that we have the right mix for publication. And number 5 is a way forward, how to move forward. Just now, Dr. Tang have briefly introduced me, so I'll not go into this much detail. This is just a page of infographic of myself. Part 1 is about embedding and nurturing research culture, which all the universities in Malaysia, not just in Malaysia today, the whole world, certainly going into is already in that particular direction, and we are flourishing more and more in that sense, right? But then again, it's good to always remind ourselves that the research culture should be a part of the higher institution or part of higher learning institution, especially not just in Malaysia, but overall in the world itself. Again, in terms of that, I also try to, this is another view of the university from above. Anyhow, so I'm sure that everyone knows the definition of what is research actually. This is based on any of the textbook definition. It's a process, inquiry, investigation, systematic, is follow a certain methodological, scientific in a way, ethical in a way, and most of the time research should be solving a certain issue, a certain problem. Like like right now, this month, I think for most of the researchers in Malaysia or lecturers in Malaysia, it will be quite a busy month because the FRGS is opening. The fundamental research grant scheme is opening, and the lecturers are applying for the grant, not just applying but fighting for the grant. I use the word fighting for the grant because and I think most of the university will happen this month and next month itself. So these are the so most of the time, like for example, fundamental research grant or the PhD thesis that you are doing for the student actually are trying to solve a problem, trying to solve an issue. Whether it's on the empirical side, whether on theoretical side, whether on practical side, the idea of the research is actually to increase the knowledge, to increase that kind of knowledge. So how you're going to embed this type of, the culture into not just the university, but overall as a society itself. So how this thing would spill over, the positive spill over, not just within the university, not just within ourselves, but overall towards the society, right? To solve a practical problem. What the whole world are still having right now, are still fear right now, is about the pandemic, the COVID-19, which have been going on for the past for the past 2 years right now, right? Since it started in end of 2019. Research is still going on. Research and development is still going on. A lot of question still for the scientists, especially the one that's still finding the upgraded vaccines and so on, because the virus also upgraded. So vaccines also have to be upgraded. So same thing goes to the research. Same thing goes not just on medical research, but on the rest of part of the research world. So this pandemic, this COVID-19 actually brought us as a human to see this. I would see this perspective that research is important. It's very, very important, because we have to dive into that to know what is going on, to find, not just finding the cure, not just finding the vaccine, not for just the business to make money, not just to make a much more better mask or something like that, but to go beyond that for the benefit of the society, for the benefit of all, not just for certain parties or not just for certain type of people. So again, I try to bring that concept back to what research culture is. So based on the definition here, research culture is actually reflecting what a standard, an ideal, a belief within an organization. So a university like USM, University Science Malaysia, which is an Apex University, not by right, the research culture have already been embedded inside the organization. So whether it's a top-down approach, whether it's a bottom-up approach, that's another storyline. But what more important is that to embed this research culture means that the mindset, the culture there is towards the research, innovation, and towards the technological advancement, in that sense, towards finding solution to increase the knowledge, to know what is happening, rather than when we have a lot of questions like what happening right now since 2019, given the pandemic, is that when we have more question in our mind, in our brain, when we always question, that's where research can go on. It should, and I always believe that a research should start with a question, not just a question. Research should start with questions, and then should end it up with answers, not the other way around. If you already have the answer, it might be that, for my perspective, that research might not be, or why you still want to conduct research if you already have the answer. So again, that whole thing, and try to bring back to the research culture itself, is like a model itself. It's like a standard. That's what the organization believes. So whether it's from top down, bottom up, there's another storyline, as I told you. This is by the World Economic Forum, of how they give an example of how can cultivate a better research culture. But this one, I would believe that this is based on university basis, right? Each of the universities, each of the organization, including the center, like Sampris itself, would have their own strength, would have their own, what the strength, perhaps identify their weaknesses, identify what should be done, what should not be done, identify what sort of strategic planning for some years, and how to cultivate, how to embed this insight that is where this research culture and so on coming into the picture. So this is just a suggestion by the World Economic Forum, where they believe in engage. There should be an engagement, certainly, on whether it's a top-down approach or whether it's a bottom-up in that sense. It's the organization, the people inside the organization, the human resource itself should be trained from time to time to upgrade their skill, upskilling or reskilling in that sense. You should have a role model things like how to promote a much more excellent research culture. Open discussion, perhaps like, for example, like town hall kind of a discussion or so on related to that. But small steps must start some way, and then to have a more collaborative environment. And some expectation means that it's like, for example, like the KPI. So how big should be achieved in this particular year or this quarter, that quarter, and so on and so on. That can be set up with a proper engagement, discussion, training, and so on, and sharing. And the last one, the support system must be there. I mean, the whole ecosystem, support system, the research culture must be there itself. Right? That's pretty much important in terms of given by the World Economic Forum. So those of you who have, I'm sure every one of us having their smartphone, you can always come to this. You can scan this, or you can go to this homepage, menti.com, and scan and put up your answer there. I will go and have a look of the answer later, right? And I will share that later with most of you. But if you want to, you can go here. I leave maybe a minute or two for some of you who want to scan this part, right? Just to ensure that everyone perhaps have some. This is part of engagement to ensure that because you're doing this pretty much online, so to ensure that there's some response from the other side, from your side itself. You get some, can scan through your handphone, and then go to the homepage. Simple as that, of this code, and then the question there that I asked there is actually why a need to publish, which is the second part, the most important part of this particular talk itself, right? Why you need to publish actually, right? Why a sense of publication? Let's move on from here. Everyone answered that? Can go to the homepage also if you want to have that. I will share the result, the poll itself. This is like a poll that can be done, especially towards the kind of a webinar or related to that. An online class will be very fun of doing this. Right? I hope some of you tried it. If not, you can always let me try. Can I copy this part to the chat? Not you just I think I can do this. I can do this. All right, you can go to the homepage here, right? I can just copy and paste. Yeah, thanks for the answering. Just a simple one. All right. No right or wrong answer, because everyone would have their different view of why need to publish. All right. So I'll share the response in a while. When you go through, I think I have shared the link there later. Right. So part 2. Normally we come across the word publish or perish. Even this Hazing, Professor Hazing program, POP, publish or perish, which I think some of us downloaded, and you can check a lot of things inside. They get a lot of information about ourselves, the universities, the journal, and so on and so on. Publish or perish, POP. Syndrome, it's always been there, means that you don't publish, you've been perish. Or perhaps for me, publish and flourish is much more better, because we embed that culture, we embed that publication culture, and so on. We try to bring up everyone, and we flourish together, so that the organization, yourself is as an individual, the organization, the center, the school would grow together in that sense. That's actually my some part of my things on it, part 2. So these are some of the answers, the why we publish, right? For most of the time, for most of the time that we know that publication is a kind of a knowledge creation, right? There's a kind of a so-called like a knowledge creation in that sense. So that is pretty much quite the standard answer. If you see the book, new knowledge, increased impact, visibility, and then from there you build your reputation, and then after that it can be preserved as a record, and so on and so on. So these are part of the like a research. Why we need to publish in that sense. This is a interesting picture of publish or perish. In that sense, if it is publish or perish, and he hasn't published, so this person here, this group of people here, would like to punish this particular person because this particular person not be able to publish. So this kind of situation seems to be a little bit yes, this is what happening a lot in the academia. If you don't publish, you can't get this, you can't get that, you do not, you're not getting a tenure, you're not getting a promotion, and so on and so on. Certainly there are other different criteria too, but publication is one of the criteria also, right? So it's like if the person do not publish, the others here would start to try to like have a gun there to try to shoot the person, because right, you should go, you should not be in this particular business in that sense, right? So that's pretty harsh thing, but this is another it's a journal, it's a publication in Emerald that talks about publish or perish. You need to publish, you need to publish, you need to publish, and it's like a paper itself. In one of the journal, I think the journal called Accounting and Audit and Accountability Journal. It's like journal but for one page. It's like, but this is a poem, right? It's a poem itself, right? So most of the time that I will come up with these types of thing of what I call as a publication game plan. What is your game plan? What is your planning for publication? What we should do first? Which one should we start first if we intended to start off with a publication thing? Which one that we would be able to start off with in that particular sense? Which one should we start? Following the standard journal article section. This is what the standards are usually going into. Means that we start off with the title, and then we have your the author's name. This is the structure, yeah, the structure of an article itself. But coming back to the game plan, this structure not necessary in of what this is what my belief in. This structure not necessarily being followed from here. Number 1, number 2, number 3. This not necessarily one, and then you go for authors, you go for abstract keywords, and so on up to references. Right? For me, it depends on how we want to provide or how we plan our game of publication, how we look into that, which one should start first. Normally, I would say that I would start, or I would ask my own student to start with here first, a review of literature first, right? You review the literature, and then after that, you can write the introduction. And then after that, from there, you also can write the methodology, the theory behind the data, perhaps that you're going to use for the estimation. If you're doing quantitative, if you do qualitative, then you get a different sets of methodology, different sets of theory behind, different sets of data collections, methods, and so on. And then after that, you move to the result. And then after that, you move to conclusion. This is me. This is my perspective. Right? Start a review, and then go for introduction. You go for methodology, data, theory, and related, and results and discussion, and then you go conclusion. And then after that, only you write the abstract. And after you write the abstract, you come up with the title. Right? Title would change until you finalize it, until you publish the paper. And then certainly authors come into pictures, and then certainly acknowledgement, and I mean reference on the way when you write all these things through. This must be done also at the same time. That's my part of a little bit of my game plan. Start off with that. Or I ask my student actually to start off with their review literature. Although you write a PhD thesis, you should start off with chapter 1, but I normally ask them to start as in chapter 2 first. You review the literature, read first before you come out. Yes, you have the idea, but expand the idea. Read on the idea is what of what is already available out there in the literature. Let me go through the next slide. that's pretty much my game plan. Or in other words, I mean, looking into this particular slides, hopefully that this will be from methodology onwards. Imagine that you're playing something like this. This Lego, I'm sure is quite famous among ourselves and among maybe much more, not necessarily the younger one, but we still do that from time to time. And so this is like collecting the data, raw data, and then you sorted out the data, and then you arrange the data properly, use a proper methodology, or you use visual application, or you estimate a regression and what not related to that, and then after that you come up with a nice story like this, and then you do up the conclusion and so on. So it's like looking into this, for me, is like looking into how we do a research. Starting off with an idea. You have a very entangled idea in your mind. You believe this is what happened. Then you find the information. After you finding the information, you sorted it out all. That's why you plan your review of literature, your literature review. You plan it, you have to put here, you have to put there, and then you find more, getting more messed up. It's okay. And then then further on, you read a lot of methodology, which one is suitable for your research, and then go on and go on. In the end of the day, you should produce something like this. In the end of the thesis, in the end of the publication itself, it should produce something like that. Explain with a proper, nice story. Again, like I said just now, we start off a research with uncertainty or something that is not, that you do not have the answer yet. And then in the end, you have the answer. What's your answer? I built the house, for example. All right, so then this is the wheel, not a wheel of fortune. This is a wheel of publication. That's what always I also believe in that part also. We read, we write, we discuss, we present in the conference, perhaps in the webinar right now, more famous word, and then you submit for journal article, and then you start all over again. And be patient. Be patient. Revise. This is just a number. Sometimes we revise more than that. Every time you read, every time you have correction, even to yourself, and all not related to that. So, but first we start with read first. Identify literature review, and then starting a little bit of writing, discuss, and so on and so on. This like a wheel of publication, research and publication wheel, not to have this. And to have a proper research paper, a proper research publication, I believe in these few important points there. Is that how you want to craft your research paper, how you want to craft your research paper to becoming a much more better research paper. In that sense, is that we must have a much solid, interesting, attractive introduction that attract people, attract the reader, attract the editor. When you read the abstract, you read the first line of the introduction, read the title itself, and you want to ensure that the editors will read further, or perhaps the reviewer who going to review your paper, right? Yeah. So I'm looking into that perspective, not just from the author's perspective, but also from the editorial side perspective, because like an editor, especially editors of journal, of most of these big journals, they do not really have time, most of the time, to read the whole paper. Most of the time, they just glance through, interesting, attractive, solid, okay, pass the second phase. The first phase is just pre-publication or pre-review. Even before sent to review, the editors or the group of editors, the group of people inside that particular journal with the associate editor and whatnot related to that, they will scan through the paper first. Interesting, go to the next level. Not interesting, reject. That's it. So our part here is that we must be able to get through that, at least the first phase. the first phase, so that at least the paper is sent out for review, and at least they have a chance to be sent out for review.